Hi, everybody, and welcome to Alex Erm's Clips. It's hard to know where to begin, but I'll try to make sense of the chaos. My name's Mike, and I'm 43. My wife, Sarah, is 40, and we've been married for 16 years. We have two incredible kids, a 14-year-old daughter, Emma, and a 9-year-old son, Liam. For years, I thought we had something special, something built on trust, love, and resilience. Life wasn't always perfect, but we worked through the rough patches, coming out stronger. Or so I believed. Sarah and I were young when we got married, still figuring ourselves out. Immaturity caused some early turbulence, but we were determined to make it. For years, it felt like we'd achieved a balance. She worked as a manager at a major advertising company, and I was an engineer. Our jobs allowed us to live comfortably, and we were committed to creating lasting memories for our kids, despite our busy schedules. I prided myself on being a good husband and father. Sure, I made mistakes, but I loved my family fiercely and always tried to show it. That's why it was devastating when I discovered Sarah's long-term affair, something that would turn my world upside down. Looking back, the signs were there. For the last couple of years, Sarah had become distant. She was often critical, comparing me to her boss, Greg. Greg always knows how to handle things, she'd say, or Greg takes his wife on spontaneous dates. Why don't you ever do that? Her comments stung, but I chalked them up to stress and a rough patch in our marriage. I asked her repeatedly what I could do to make things better, to spice up our relationship. You shouldn't have to ask, she'd reply. Determined to fix things, I read books, tried new approaches, and did everything I could think of to make her happy. But no matter what I did, her reactions were lukewarm at best. Greg and his wife, Lisa, had become close family friends. Their kids played with ours, and we often hosted barbecues or went on outings together. I even confided in Greg about my marital struggles. I thought he was a stand-up guy, someone I could trust. The irony of that belief would later haunt me. The moment that changed everything happened late one night. Sarah and I were lying in bed, and she was laughing at something on her phone. Curious, I leaned over to see, but she yanked the phone away like I'd caught her stealing. "What are you doing?" she snapped, her tone sharp and defensive. "I just wanted to see the joke," I said, confused by her reaction. "It's private," she shot back, retreating to the bathroom. Something shifted in me that night. My gut told me something was wrong, very wrong. The next day, I confronted her, asking if she was having an affair. She exploded, furious that I'd even suggest such a thing, and vehemently denied it. But her defensiveness only deepened my suspicion. When I finally convinced her to hand over her phone, it was scrubbed clean. The conversations were inconsistent, filled with gaps that didn't make sense. I didn't have solid proof, but I knew she was hiding something. Desperate for answers, I reached out to a tech-savvy friend to recover deleted messages. What he found was damning, though incomplete. A string of deleted texts and enough clues to confirm my worst fear. Sarah was having an affair. And the other man, Greg. I didn't confront Sarah immediately. Instead, I reached out to Lisa. I couldn't carry the weight of this alone, and I thought she had a right to know. When I told her, she was as blindsided as I'd been. "Greg," she whispered, disbelief etched across her face. "Are you sure?" I showed her what little evidence I had. Together, we decided to gather more. Lisa had easier access to Greg's phone, and what she found filled in the gaps. The affair had been going on for 2 years. They'd slept together in hotels, on business trips, even in our homes. The betrayal cut deeper with every discovery. Lisa and I agreed on one thing. If they wanted each other so badly, they could have each other. We both filed for divorce. Quietly, carefully, we made our plans. When the time came, we knew exactly where they'd be, another secret rendezvous at a hotel. I'll never forget the look on Sarah's face when the sheriff served her the divorce papers. She was dressed in nothing but a bathrobe, her eyes wide with panic as she saw me standing in the hotel lobby. "Mike, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You know exactly why I'm here," I replied, keeping my voice steady. The sheriff asked her to confirm her identity, and when she did, he handed her the papers. She clutched my arm as I turned to leave. "Wait, Mike, this isn't what it looks like. I can explain," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "Explain?" I said, anger rising in my chest. You had an affair, Sarah. There's nothing left to explain. As her protests turned into screams, the sheriff intervened, telling her to let me go. I left without looking back, feeling both vindicated and heartbroken. Back home, I learned Greg had also been served, this time at his house. Sarah and Greg both begged for second chances, claiming their affair was purely physical and meant nothing. But their actions had shattered our lives. The damage was done. After I served her the divorce papers, my wife didn't back down. In fact, she doubled down on her efforts to save our marriage. Every day was filled with her begging, pleading, and coming up with new ways to convince me to give her another chance. One of her constant demands was for me to cut all contact with her boss's wife. Let's call her Lisa, for simplicity. I just don't see why you need to keep talking to her, my wife argued one evening, her voice trembling with frustration. Because, unlike you, she didn't betray her spouse, I snapped. She's been nothing but a support system for me through this hell. You lost the right to dictate who I can or cannot talk to. She looked down, biting her lip as if searching for a response that wouldn't further ignite my anger. I don't trust her. I think she's influencing you against me. I laughed bitterly. You're unbelievable. You think this is about Lisa? No, this is about you. What you did. What you destroyed. That was the end of that conversation, but the bitterness lingered. Every time she brought it up, my resolve hardened. How could I respect someone who cheated on me for 2 years and now had the audacity to give me lectures about loyalty? Despite everything, though, I couldn't fully turn off my emotions. I still loved her, in some twisted way, even as my heart simmered with hate. But love isn't enough. Not anymore. I wasn't going to be anyone's backup plan or safety net. I know people think I'm being cruel. Even my mother, who has always been my biggest cheerleader, urged me to reconsider. People make mistakes, she said during one of our phone calls. She's trying so hard to make things right. Don't you think she deserves a second chance? Mom, a mistake is spilling coffee, not having a 2-year affair, I retorted. She didn't just fall into this. She planned it, nurtured it, and lied about it every step of the way. You're stubborn, just like your father, she said, sighing. I just don't want you to regret this someday. But regret wasn't what I felt. It was relief. The closer I got to finalizing the divorce, the more at peace I felt. For the first time in a long time, I was starting to imagine a life without the constant anxiety, suspicion, and heartbreak. We did attend therapy together, though I wasn't thrilled about it. I mostly went to witness her progress firsthand, not because I was considering reconciliation. During one session, the therapist asked me, "What would it take for you to give your wife another chance?" I hesitated before replying honestly, "A time machine. What we have now isn't a marriage. It's a disaster I didn't sign up for." My wife's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't interrupt. For once, she listened. Later, when we were alone, she tried again. "I know I've done irreparable damage," she said softly, "but I want to fix it. I want to prove to you that I can be the wife you deserve." "Why now?" I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. "You weren't trying to be that wife for the past 2 years. You only care now because you got caught." "That's not true," she insisted. "I was insecure and I got swept up in the attention. I felt invisible, and he made me feel seen." Her confession stung, but it also made me realize something. This wasn't about love. It was about her ego. The affair had inflated her self-esteem, and now she was grappling with the fallout. The therapist once asked me if I could ever forgive her. "Forgiveness isn't the issue," I said. "It's trust. And once that's gone, what's left?" Still, I had moments of doubt. Was I being too harsh? Too stubborn? Everyone around me seemed to think so, but they weren't the ones who had to lie awake at night replaying every betrayal. They didn't have to carry this weight. And then there was Lisa. My wife's paranoia about a potential revenge affair with Lisa was laughable, but also infuriating. Every time I mentioned meeting Lisa to discuss legal matters or simply to vent, my wife would spiral. "You're going to see her again?" she asked one day, her voice laced with desperation. "Yes," I replied curtly. She sighed heavily. "Do you have to?" "It's inappropriate." Inappropriate? I shot back, my temper flaring. Coming from you? Don't lecture me about appropriateness. I'm not the one who destroyed this family. Her face crumpled, and for a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. But then I reminded myself, she made this bed. Now she had to lie in it. Even so, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was stuck in an emotional limbo. My wife's remorse seemed genuine, but it was too little, too late. And as the days ticked by, I found myself more determined than ever to move forward, without her. The car ride home that day was one of the strangest conversations I've ever had with Sarah. She brought up something she'd never asked before. Do you feel emasculated because of my affair? I glanced at her, surprised. What do you think? I said after a pause. Of course I do. How could I not? She nodded quietly, as if she'd been expecting my answer, then dropped a bombshell. Would it help if you slept with someone else? What? I blurted, my voice filled with shock and disbelief. Are you serious right now? Sarah looked straight ahead, gripping the steering wheel tightly. I mean, maybe it would level the playing field. You could get your confidence back, your mojo. I'd wait for you. I'd stay faithful while you figured things out. I stared at her, incredulous. You're talking about a trial separation so I can sleep with other women? Sarah, that's insane. It's not an affair if we're separated with clear boundaries, she argued. And let's face it, we're divorcing anyway. If it doesn't help us, at least you'll know what's out there. I shook my head, baffled by how far she was willing to go. This doesn't make any sense. How is me sleeping with other people supposed to fix anything? It's a massive risk on your part, not to mention completely out of character for you to suggest. Her voice softened. I'm desperate, Mike. I'll do anything to make this right, even if it means risking everything. I didn't say much after that. I rejected her proposal outright, but her desperation left me feeling more unsettled than before. Who was this woman? She'd changed so much from the insecure, demanding person she used to be, and yet I couldn't bring myself to trust her. Despite the madness, Sarah had been surprisingly calm and cooperative during the divorce process. She even offered me a more favorable settlement than I'd expected. You've been a great husband and father, she admitted one evening as we discussed the details. It's the least I can do after what I've put you through. I was skeptical, of course. I'd read plenty of horror stories about divorces turning nasty, but ours remained civil. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was all too good to be true, that her generosity might come with strings attached. For the sake of our kids, we decided to spend one last holiday together as a family. This will be the last time we do this, I told her firmly. It's for Emma and Liam, not us. She nodded, her face betraying a flicker of hope. Thank you, Mike. It means the world to them. As the weeks went by, Sarah became more persistent in her attempts to reconnect with me physically. She'd never been one to initiate intimacy before, which made her newfound eagerness all the more jarring. New lingerie, suggestive texts, even heartfelt letters. She tried it all. Mike, she said one night, standing in the doorway of our bedroom in something sheer and lacy, this isn't about reconciliation. I just want you to feel desired again. I want you to feel good. I shook my head, trying to suppress the anger bubbling beneath the surface. And where was this energy for the last 2 years, Sarah? When I was begging for your attention, when I was fighting for us? She lowered her gaze, the shame evident on her face. I was a fool. I didn't see what I had until I ruined it. I rejected her advances time and again, but the truth is, I missed the intimacy. I missed the closeness, the connection. I began questioning myself. Was it wrong to want that, even if I had no intention of staying with her? Was I being played? Meanwhile, I'd cut off contact with Lisa, the other betrayed spouse, after realizing our conversations had become more personal than I was comfortable with. Before we went our separate ways, she admitted something that caught me off guard. I think I want to see where this could go, she said softly, her eyes searching mine. After your divorce, of course. I didn't know what to say. Lisa was an incredible woman, strong, beautiful, and kind, but I wasn't sure if I could return her feelings. We agreed to step back from each other until everything was sorted out. One day, out of the blue, Greg, the man Sarah had betrayed me with, reached out to apologize. He asked to meet in person, and against my better judgment, I agreed. He looked like a shadow of the arrogant man I'd once known, his shoulders hunched and his face drawn. "Mike, I'm sorry for everything," he said, his voice quiet. I made a terrible mistake." I stared at him, my expression cold. "I don't care about your apology, Greg. It doesn't change anything." And with that, I walked away. As the divorce neared its final stages, I found myself reflecting on everything that had happened. Sarah had spent months trying to prove her remorse, transforming into the ideal partner I'd always wished she'd been. But it was too little, too late. "She's not a villain," I told myself, "but she's not my future either." This Christmas, I decided to focus on my kids and the life I wanted to build without her. After the holidays, I planned to invite Lisa to dinner, not as a romantic gesture, but as a thank you for being there when I hit rock bottom. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain: I deserved better, and I was finally ready to claim it. When I first uncovered the affair, I completely lost it. The rage consumed me. It was one of my lowest moments. I knew I had to make changes for the sake of my kids, so I worked to organize things as best as I could. My ex-wife moved out of the house shortly after, and I began the process of buying her out of her share. Now, she's living in an apartment, a significant downgrade from our family home. She hasn't been handling it well. "She looks miserable every time I see her," I confessed to a friend over coffee one afternoon. "She's still going to therapy and is deeply invested in reading about infidelity, though I can't quite figure out why. Maybe she's trying to make sense of her actions." We've had some lengthy conversations since the divorce was finalized, but the physical distance between us has been deliberate. It's been minimal, to say the least, because I know better than to allow her back into my life in any significant way. She's still the mother of my kids, though, and for their sake, I want us to be good co-parents. Logic drives my approach to this situation, and I owe much of my clarity to the wisdom of others who've walked this road before me. "She wants to reconcile," I admitted during one of these conversations, "but I can't risk going back. It's not just about trust. It's about my peace of mind." I could see her trying to process my words, but it was clear she didn't want to hear them. This past weekend, I allowed myself a rare evening out. Another betrayed spouse, a woman I'll refer to as OBS, invited me to dinner. Neither of us had any intentions beyond companionship and good conversation. We ended up sharing stories about our pasts, laughing more than I thought I could these days. As the evening progressed, the mood shifted. "This is nice," she said, her voice soft. Her eyes met mine with a warmth I hadn't felt in years. "Yeah," I replied, almost reluctant to acknowledge the magnetic pull growing between us. One thing led to another, and what started as innocent company ended in a night of passion that completely caught me off guard. To put it bluntly, it was the most electrifying experience I've ever had. OBS is nothing short of extraordinary, giving, attentive, and completely in tune with me. The chemistry was undeniable. The next morning, as we shared breakfast, I couldn't help but laugh. "Well, that escalated quickly," I joked, a tinge of embarrassment in my voice. "It did," she agreed, smiling. "But no regrets?" "None," I said, more certain than I'd expected. "It's strange. I feel alive again, wanted. Although I don't think this will develop into anything serious, the experience taught me a lot about what I've been missing. For the first time, I realized I'd been settling for something robotic and unfulfilling. I know now I'll never do that again. Despite everything, I'm proud of how I've navigated this mess. I've learned to respect myself and refuse to accept disrespect, even from those closest to me. Relationships should be fulfilling, emotionally, physically, and otherwise. If they're not, there's no shame in walking away. Communication is vital, but so is knowing when to stop tolerating the intolerable. Healing, I've learned, is ultimately a solo journey. And though I've stumbled along the way, I'm emerging from this stronger and more self-assured. This community has been a lifeline, and I'm endlessly grateful for the advice and support that's guided me here. So, dear friends, if you're enjoying these stories, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more juicy relationship tales. Thanks for your support.